Hola, hola a todos, ¿cómo estamos? Bueno, buenos días, buenas noches, buenas tardes. Eh, ¿Qué tal? Hello, everybody. Don't worry, the whole thing is not going to be in Spanish. Uh, we're just going to get started here in just a second. If you could leave me a quick message to let me know that you can hear me and see me okay, that would be great. You've got a chat box in the corner. And if you can just tell me that you can see my face and hear me, then that will be great. We'll get started. Hi, Rose. Buenos días. Zoe, Kevin. Derek says, te veo bien. Bueno, perfecto. Destiny, Deb, Kevin, Mike, Kelly. Wow, loads of people. We have hundreds of people here. Fantastic. Wonderful. Also, don't worry. You're not going to have to look at my face. I'm going to switch over to the slides in just a second. Vanessa is in Mexico. Vanessa will be about an hour, I reckon. That's what she's asking. Well, these messages are moving so fast, I can't even read them. Elon says, claro, puedo verle y escucharle. Pues, perfecto, Elon. Buenas tardes, Karen. Okay, guys, well, that looks like everything is working fine. I'm going to turn off my camera and switch over to the slides so we can get started. Does that sound good? All right. Guys, if you have any... hi, Patrick, Trish, Lucky, Monica. If you do have any audio problems during the class, it's actually perfectly normal. Don't worry, it's not your fault. Simply log out and log back in again. That's the best way to resolve that particular problem. You should be able to see my slides now, or the title slide. If you can't, scream, because otherwise we'll be in big trouble. All right, I'd like to just know where you guys are. I'm going to put a poll up here. Actually, I pressed the wrong button. Oh, no. I've just deleted my poll, my mistake. Go ahead and type in, let me know where you are in the world, if you're in North America, South America. I did have a poll set up here, but I pressed the wrong button and it deleted it. But, yeah. Dawn says, not seeing the slide. Dawn, you should just be seeing my face, and it should be moving now back and forth. Hopefully you can see that. I think it looks fine for everybody else. If you do have any problems, guys, log out, log back in again. That will sort it out. Lucky's in Malaga, Rose is in Australia, Stephanie's in Las Islas Canarias. Wow, fantastico. Alice is in Argentina. Wow, you guys are everywhere. Isn't that fantastic? All right, again, let's get going. So welcome to the class. This class is entitled Think Like a Local, Mastering the Spanish Past Tense. How many of you guys have ever had a spot of confusion about the past tenses? Go ahead and write in either no, nunca, or sí, siempre. To let me know whether you have. I think we're going to be all in one camp there. All right, then, so these classes, these are regular Spanish workshops that I'm running. We are focusing on mastering problem areas of Spanish, such as the past tense. And our focus here is to learn to think like a local, not like a student. Okay, this is what we will focus on during the class. And the ultimate aim of this is so that you can become a more confident, fluent speaker. Okay, this is the specific language point we're going to focus on in this class. Okay, is the preterite versus the imperfect. The preterite is also known as the simple past. But don't worry, I'll be giving you tons of examples during the class in case you're a bit confused. But this is what this is the really tricky thing in Spanish, right? We're not going to be talking about how to conjugate the verbs, because that's actually the easy part. You can look that up in any dictionary as well. Today, we're going to be talking about how to know when to use these two past tenses, okay? And my aim is you will learn to think about past tenses like a local so that you can speak more natural Spanish, sound less English, and feel more confident with your Spanish. That's my aim. And at the end, you can judge me. I'm going to show you this slide again, and you can judge me based on how I've done. Okay? Hi, Salma in Sudan. Qué bueno. Does that sound good? All right, then. So one more thing. This is an online class, as you can tell, which is fantastic because I can reach all of you. The downside is I can't see you, so I need you to interact. Okay? So if I ask you a question, please do type it in the chat box. If I ask you a question, it's because I want you to respond. Also, please turn off your phones, close down your email. I mean, you can, of course, be on your phone during this class, but you are just going to be wasting your own time. So to make the most of the class, get rid of any distractions you might have around you. It's going to be more beneficial for you overall. Okay, so a little quick slide about me. My name is Olly Richards. I speak 8 languages, 10 on a good day, but most days aren't that good. So I learned languages as an adult, which is relevant because a lot of people think that you can only learn languages as a kid. I've worked all around the world with languages. I've worked for the British Council. I have a master's degree in linguistics. I've worked with the Open University to develop language courses. I deliver language workshops all around the world, which some of you may have been to. We were in New York recently. I've also got a couple of websites that I will teach you a language, the Fluent Spanish Academy. My website was voted the 3rd most popular language blog in the world some time ago. I've also published many books that have been bestsellers around the world, which you may have seen. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Nice to meet you. Mucho gusto. And let's get into it. Connie says, I lost connection. Again, guys, if you do lose connection, simply log out and log back in again using the same link. That will solve the problem. Okay, so past tenses. Let's define the problem here, okay? So consider this phrase. This phrase encapsulates why Spanish is difficult for English speakers. I ate at 7 p.m. How would you say this in Spanish? Would you say comí a las 7 or would you say comía a las 7? Type in the answer quickly if you know. Or maybe you might spot that it's a trick question. Because, of course, to say I ate at 7 p.m., there are 2 possibilities in Spanish. All right, and this is what we're going to be talking about in this class. It's how to choose between them. Now, the class will start off on the easy side, and it will get harder. So if some of you guys are watching this thinking, oh, this is really easy, I know all this, don't worry, it gets harder. It's actually going to get quite hard towards the end, okay? So stick around because there's something for everybody here. All right, so I ate at 7 p.m. What situation is this referring to? When did I eat at 7 p.m.? Was it once? Twice? Was it last night? Was it for a year? Well, in English, you can't tell, can you? Just by this phrase. But also, it doesn't particularly matter because you can clarify if you need to. If you need to say, oh, I'm talking about last night, or for the whole of last year, you can add that information. But in Spanish, the verb tense you use gives you a lot more information. This means that as English speakers, we often ignore the verb in red here, ate. We think it doesn't matter. But for Spanish speakers, there is a clear, meaningful difference. All right, so let's look at the complexity. First of all, we have the preterite, also known as the simple past. And that looks a bit like this. You would have seen this before. Yo comí, tú comiste, él comió. That's the preterite. This is the imperfect. Yo comía, tú comías, él comía. Again, this is what we're going to be talking about. So when we want to say I ate at 7 p.m., if you choose between comí a las 7 de la noche or comía a las 7 de la noche, we're talking about either the preterite or the imperfect. Okay, so let's look at the basic rules here. Well, not really the rules, the basic concept. This arrow represents time. On the left-hand side, you've got the past, and on the right-hand side, you've got the future. Okay, so it's a simple timeline. So, when would you say comía? Or rather, actually, before we get to that, look at this phrase here. Comí a las 7 de la noche. When we say comí a las 7 de la noche, using the preterite, we're talking about one specific point in time. And this is most likely earlier on at 7 p.m. or last night at 7 p.m. It's a specific point in time that we are using the preterite. So when do we use the imperfect? Well, let's say we've got a span of years. So we've got 2013, 2015, 2017. And then let's say that at the moment, now in 2017, I eat at 8 p.m. But there was a period of time in the past when I ate at 7 p.m., which is represented by this red box here. It wasn't a specific night, it was a period of time. And because it's not a specific point, because it is a longer period of time, we're going to say comía a las 7 de la noche. That's when we use the imperfect, right? So to have a quick comparison then, the preterite is one specific point in time. The imperfect is a longer, more ongoing event where there's a sense of duration. This is the very simple case. Let me know if that makes sense and if we can move on and start to look at some of the more juicy elements. Is that all okay? So Zara asks, is comía like I used to eat? Yeah, it could be. It could be not just that, but that would be an accurate translation in the right context. Okay, Trevor, Amanda, Kate, Christina. Okay, that seems to be clear for everybody. All right then. So when I explain it like this, it seems simple, doesn't it? But the tricky part comes when there are events that don't clearly have that distinction between a specific moment and an ongoing event. And we'll see some of those examples later. Because in reality, what happens is they're all very mixed up. And in many cases, both are actually possible. Okay, both the preterite and the imperfect are both possible. It depends what emphasis you want to give as the speaker sometimes. So the first thing to say is it's normal that you're not really sure. Okay, and even myself, I speak Spanish. I'm sometimes not even sure myself. To be fair, native speakers often mix them up as well. All right. So the important point is that communication is very rarely affected. So native speakers will almost always understand what you're trying to say. So this grammar point is certainly nothing to prevent you from speaking. What I'm going to aim to do in this class is to get you to what I call the discovery threshold, which is this blue line here. You know, you've got all these questions. You think to yourself, okay, I'm not sure whether to use the imperfect or the preterite. I'm really not sure. In this class, I'm aiming to get you over the line to this point here where suddenly you think, okay, I understand the core of this. And so from this point on, I'm able to think about using these past tenses like native speakers do. So I'm aiming to get you over the line in terms of really understanding it, okay? I'm going to be doing a long Q&A at the end, guys, by the way. Okay, so I can see some of you are asking questions here. I'm going to answer questions if they're relevant to the part of the class that I'm talking about. If it's a more complex question, like Roy has asked here about the verb soler, I think what I'll do is I'll leave that to the end. Otherwise, we're going to keep stopping and starting. Okay. So let's start by looking at this phrase. He usually ate at 8 p.m., but one night he ate at 7 p.m. While he was eating, the phone rang. Now, in English, the basic past tense is enough. Right? Ate, rang. See all those simple pasts there? That's enough in English. But in Spanish, it's a bit different. So let's see if you can tell me which is which. So he usually ate at 8 p.m. Go ahead and type in the box, guys, which one you think. Is it comió or comía? He usually ate at 8 p.m. Go ahead and give me your best guess. Remember, what you're thinking here is the key concept. Okay, most of you guys are getting the right answer. Of course, he usually ate, which means he did it many times, right? So we say comía. Good. Next, one night he ate at 7 p.m. Is it comió or comía? One night he ate at 7 p.m. So think to yourself, is this a specific moment? Or is this a more general, longer lasting thing? Okay, yep, you're all getting it right here. Comió, very good. Guys, if you can use the accents, do you know how to do the accents on your keyboard? That would be good if you can. It's a good habit to get into. Next, while he was eating. So, mientras comió or mientras comía? While he was eating. Is there a sense of duration here or not? Let me know. Is this comió or comía? Just so you know, there is a slight delay from the time that you type it into when I see it. So that explained it. Okay. Yeah, okay. Most of you guys are getting this. Good. So while he was eating, because of the word while, there's a sense of duration here. We're focusing on that time during which he was eating. So we say comía. And lastly, the phone rang. The phone rang. Is it a specific event or is it a duration? In one sense, it could be both, right? But what we're saying here is while he was eating, the phone rang. It's a specific thing. So we say sonó. Sonó el teléfono. So these are relatively simple cases. Would you agree? However, as we go through the class now and we get a bit more complex, what I want you to remember is it's not the rules that change. Okay, this basic sentiment, this basic concept of a specific moment in time or duration remains the same throughout. So that's why I was at pains to explain this earlier. I want you to hold on to this concept because it's going to allow you to start to think like a native speaker, however complex the sentence might get. All right? So, to see this more visually, he usually ate at 8 p.m., comía a las 8. One night he ate at 7 p.m., comió a las 7 de la noche. While he was eating, again, you've got a sense of duration here. While he was eating, mientras comía, the phone rang. Sonó el teléfono. Is that all clear for you, this distinction between a specific moment in time and a duration? All seems fine. If you have any questions related to that, go ahead and type it in. So what's important here, don't worry so much about understanding each specific case as using the preterite or the imperfect. What I want you to do, your decision-making for deciding which tense do I use needs to be this underlying concept of duration or a specific time. Okay, so the preterite is for a specific moment, the imperfect is for duration. All right. Deb asks, why not estaba comiendo? Deb, that would be fine as well. That would be absolutely fine. It just depends whether how much emphasis you want to give on the action in progress. But yeah, mientras estaba comiendo would be just as fine, yeah. Right then. The trouble is, of course, guys, that it's all very well to know these and to get this right during a class where we are focusing specifically on the grammar. But as you know, when you speak with people, it gets a bit trickier, doesn't it? Because you have to think so quickly. Have you ever had that experience where you're in the middle of a conversation, but everything's happening so fast, you don't have time to think about the which verb tense you should use? Well, this is why the deeper you can ingrain your understanding of this simple difference, the more likely that this is actually going to work itself through into your speaking. That's why I'm keeping this class very simple in terms of the concept. So I want to show you an example of actually when I made a mistake with the verb tenses recently, just to show you how simple it can be to make such a mistake. So look at this phrase here. When I was in Hong Kong recently, I didn't have an office space, so I worked in a cafe. I went to a cafe nearby every morning. Now, look at the verb that's highlighted there. I went to a cafe nearby every morning. Now, tell me, would you use fui or would you use iba in this situation? Go ahead and let me know. Think about the context. I was in Hong Kong recently for a period of time, obviously. I didn't have an office space, so I worked in a cafe. I went to a cafe nearby every morning. Would you use fui or iba? Please tell me which, and tell me why as well. Okay, we're getting a mix here. Go ahead and tell me why. I want you to give me your rationale. Ayushi asks how long the class is. About 1 hour, Ayushi. Okay, so Jessamine says because you did it more than once. Exactly. So in this case, it's not really an ongoing action, but it is a repeated action over a period of time. So we'd say iba. We said, todas las mañanas iba a un café cerca de mi casa. If we said, fui a un café cerca de mi casa, that's because I only went once at a specific moment in time. Is that clear? Now, let's change the context slightly and see if anything changes. One day in Hong Kong, there was a storm. So I went to another cafe that was closer to home. Now, same verb. In English, it's exactly the same. But in Spanish, are you still going to use iba or are you going to use fui instead? Please tell me and give me your rationale as well. I want to hear why. So Eva says, fui because you went once. Exactly. Dr. Mateus, Amy, Elon, all making the same point. Good. So that's fui. So we say, aquel día, on that specific day, fui a un otro café más cerca de mi casa. Make sense? Good. Now, here's a friend of mine. Es un amigo mío. Bueno, de hecho no es ningún amigo, pero bueno, es una buena imagen. So, I want you to imagine that you are trying to go into a nightclub or a hotel or something like that, and they have this guy on the door who's trying to stop you from getting inside. And you were telling your friend about it. Oh, this man was tall and strong. Now, tall and strong, of course, in Spanish we say alto y fuerte. I'm sure you know that. Are we going to say el hombre fue alto y fuerte, or are we going to say era alto y fuerte? This comes from the verb ser, meaning to be. This is where the lines start to blur a bit because it's not such a clear-cut case like before, is it? So go ahead and tell me whether you would say fue alto y fuerte or era alto y fuerte. And please tell me why, guys. I want to hear your rationale because that's how I know whether you're thinking right. Okay, now Kelly said something interesting there. And Cindy said the same thing. Because, well, let me ask you, was the man tall and strong only once? Or is he always tall and strong? Was he tall and strong for longer than that particular moment? Mike says he will always be tall and strong. Tanya says because it's a characteristic. Yes, but I'm trying to keep it simple here for you guys. There is a simpler way than remembering all these different situations. Again, I want you to think about duration. Is it just once or is it a longer period of time? Okay, so as Ken says, he was always tall and strong. Exactly. So we're going to say era alto y fuerte. Some of you guys were talking about descriptions, but in the case of descriptions, that's usually a question between ser and estar. So that's when you would ask, okay, would you say era alto y fuerte or estaba alto y fuerte? And that's a different question. That's something for another day. The important thing now is we're talking just about the verb ser. Okay? And in this case, the question is, was he big and strong just once or for longer than that? And of course, it is longer than that. And so we say era alto y fuerte. Dawn asks why. Dawn, hopefully that's clear now. Kevin says, very good general rule. Thanks. Yeah, and so Kevin, that's what I'm aiming to do here. I'm aiming to kind of cut through all the noise and give you one very specific thing you can remember that helps you out in all situations. Alexandra says, ahorita entiendo. Bueno, perfecto. Me alegro. We say, el hombre era alto y fuerte. Now, let me give you another situation. I want to try and approach this from lots of different interesting angles. So you can exercise the old gray matter. Now, consider this. Look at this photo here. Got a photo of 4 girls looking directly at you. Now, what's happening here? Well, in this specific situation, there are 4 girls looking at us. Let me ask you a couple more questions. Are they standing still and staring, or have they just heard a noise and turned their head to look towards us? Which is it? What would you say? Are they standing and staring, or are they posing for a photo, or have they heard a noise and have they just reacted and turned their heads? Okay, Kevin says posing for a photo. Yep. Lisa, Penelope, Dawn. Yep, they're all posing, right? So hold that thought in your head. And I'm going to give you 2 possible sentences in Spanish. And I want you to tell me which one you would choose and why. Firstly, las chicas nos miraban in the imperfect. Or las chicas nos miraron in the preterite or simple past. Take a second to think about this and then write in the chat box, please, which would you use and tell me why. Okay, we've got a big mix here. And the truth is that both are possible. But what I want you to think about is to contrast 2 different situations. First of all, they are standing and looking at us. So remember, the sentence here is the girls looked at us. Now, compare and contrast that with the girls heard a loud noise and a bang, and they suddenly turned their heads to look at us. Given those 2 situations, which do you think it would be? So we've got a big mix. And so, like I said, the truth is it could be both. But the point I'm trying to make here is it depends very much on the context, doesn't it? So, as Natasha says, this is not a sudden action, is it? If we were describing the situation, and I was telling this story in the future, what would I say? I'd say, well, okay, so I was setting up the camera, and I was getting ready to take the picture, and the girls were looking at us. That was the situation. There's a sense, can you see? There was a sense of duration in that situation. In everything we're talking about here, there's a sense of duration. The girls were standing there and looking at us because they were either staring at us for some reason or because they're posing for a photo. And so we want to give the impression that there is some kind of duration here. Now, Deb asked an interesting question. Even if they posed for a very brief period of time. Deb, it doesn't matter. When we're choosing between the imperfect and the preterite, it could be 1 second or it could be 1 year. That's not a factor. It all depends on whether or not we want to give that sense of duration. Just like with the man, the tall, strong man, we wanted to give the impression that he was, well, you know, in our description, we're saying he was always like that, right? And so in this situation, if the girls were standing there and staring at us because they found us interesting or because they were posing for a photo or whatever, in that situation, I would use the first one, which is las chicas nos miraban, because I want to give the impression in the storyline that there's a duration. And just like I was saying, welcome, David, who's just tuned in from Guyana. Wow, excellent. I've never been to Guyana, David. Again, the reason this is tricky is because we don't have this concept in English. we'd have to use different verb forms, right? So we'd have to say, for example, the girls were looking at us, or the girls looked at us. And again, even if we said the girls looked at us, that is precise enough in English. But in Spanish, it's not the case. So because the girls are standing and staring or posing, I would say, las chicas nos miraban. Now again, compare this to the other example I gave, which is that the girls were walking down the street, they heard a bang, and they turned their heads to look at us. There, can you see how that, in that case, we would use the second example, las chicas nos miraron, because we want to give the impression it's at a specific moment in time. Is that clear for you? And can you see how we are, like, we're trying to explain it, we're trying to offer explanations here to kind of clarify it in our minds, but really it's very simple. From the perspective of a Spanish speaker, we either want to give a sense of duration, or we want to say it was a specific action in a specific moment in time. That's what we're trying to get at. All right? Amanda says it's clear. Karen says taking screenshots to look again later. Karen, if you drop me an email, I'll see if I can send you the slides, if that would help. All right, are you ready for another example? This is an interesting one. So, have a look at this picture. Don't worry about reading the text just yet, because it's a bit long. I want you to imagine that you're in this fancy bar, this fancy cocktail bar here. It's a really fun evening. There's lots of people around, and there's a barman who is overworked, and he's trying to serve drinks as much as possible. And I'm going to give you two sentences, and I want you to imagine which one it is. And again, your task here, remembering that both verbs will be possible, as you should be realizing by now, both verb forms are possible. So the question is, well, what's the most likely? How can we use context to help us? So, example number one is this. Varios clientes trataron de llamar la atención del barman, pero cuando este vio a Catalina, fue a hablar con ella. And the translation is, many customers tried to get the attention of the barman because they wanted a drink, right? But when the barman saw Catalina, he went directly to speak to her for some reason. Okay? Varios clientes trataron de llamar la atención del barman, pero cuando este vio a Catalina, fue a hablar con ella. So that verb there, trataron, is to try to. Is that in the imperfect or the preterite? Give you a little spot test here. Trataron, is that the imperfect or the preterite? Just testing your grammar here. Yep, yeah, okay, good. That's the preterite. Good stuff. Most of you guys are getting that right. For those of you who are not sure, this is something to look up later in your dictionary. But for now, just focus on the concepts we're talking about here. All right? So this is situation number one. Now, situation number two is this. Varios clientes trataban de llamar la atención del barman, pero cuando este vio a Catalina, fue a hablar con ella. So here we've got the verb in the imperfect. So we've got various customers were trying to grab the attention of the barman, but when he saw Catalina, he went to speak to her. So we've got two choices. Many customers tried to grab his attention, or many customers were trying to grab his attention. Can you see the difference? So then look at the picture here. Imagine the situation, like it's a busy bar, lots of people are trying to get their drinks. Which of these two would you use? Would you say, trataron de llamar la atención del barman, or would you say, trataban de llamar la atención del barman? Go ahead and type in the answer. Brenda asks, what does cuando este vio mean? Brenda, it means when he or him saw Catalina. And the use of este here is just, it's a kind of an emphatic he. So it's like saying But when this guy, when he, the man we were talking about, you could also say, pero cuando él vio a Catalina, that would be okay. Okay, so Ted says, trataban because they were continually trying to get his attention. Great. Thanks for the answer and the explanation, Ted. Exactly right. So those customers trying to get his attention, are they doing it for just a moment, or is it a longer period of time? Do we want to give that sense of duration or not? Well, you know what it's like to try and get a beer in a busy bar or a busy pub. If you've been in a pub during the World Cup, you will know exactly what that's like. You have to stand there for half an hour and you actually miss the football because everybody's trying to get a drink. We want to emphasize, as the speaker, the idea of duration. So we say, varios clientes trataban de llamar la atención del barman. Like Destiny says, they would still be trying to get his attention until they get their drink. Exactly. So now, question for you. When would you say trataron? I want you to imagine a slightly different context. We're still in the bar. It's still very busy. There's still lots of people trying to get their drinks. But what might have to happen in our little story for you to say, varios clientes trataron de llamar la atención del barman? Okay, you need to use your creative imagination here. What do you think happened in the bar for us to say trataron? Because remember, at the same time, we're talking about varios clientes. So we're talking about many people we're trying to talk about here, right? And all at once, Kirsty says, there was an accident or something sudden. Great. Good stuff, Kirsty. So imagine, it's a busy night in the bar, but suddenly someone, I don't know, broke a glass and they cut their hand on the glass and there was blood everywhere. It was a serious situation. And all the people at the bar saw it, and suddenly they all tried to get the attention of the barman. All of a sudden, de un toque, as they say in Spanish. Like Klaas says, they were all yelling at him at the same time to get their drinks. Exactly. Or, well, actually, maybe not to get their drinks, but... Okay, so Pat says, when the goal was scored. Okay, not sure why they'd be yelling at the barman, unless he was on the losing team. I don't know. Yeah, so, and then Campbell says here, for example, there was a one-off event that they needed his attention for. Exactly. Maybe a fire broke out in the corner. So can you see now how it's a very different dynamic between these two verbs, but also how the situation from the perspective of a Spanish native speaker was crystal clear. Now, is that making sense to you guys? Go and let me know in the comments. If you're confused, you can tell me that too. Hopefully, though, yeah. So Destiny says it's starting to make more sense. So Stephanie says it's kind of like were trying versus tried. Well, Stephanie, in this particular case, yes. The trouble is that you can also use the imperfect to talk about, to say it to mean used to, in which case you wouldn't be able to say were trying. So it's not quite that, we can't reduce it quite that much, but it's a good analogy. Joe says, I think the word tried implies ongoing action. Yeah. So this is again, we're coming back to this. This is the key, guys. So when you use the imperfect, so when you say trataban, for whatever reason, we as the speaker are trying to emphasize duration of some kind. All right. Okay. Let's have a little test. This is taken from a story, actually. And I'm going to just read this to you, and then I'd like you to tell me which form of the verb you should use. Now, when we do this, it gets very messy because everyone just starts typing random verbs into the box. So when you give me your answer, guys, I'd like you to number your answers 1, 2, 3, 4, and please put it all in the same reply. So don't hit enter until you have written all 4 verbs in the box, please. Okay, so take your time. So this is, again, an excerpt from a story, and it goes like this. I'll read it to you once in Spanish, and then I'll give you the translation so that you understand the context. ¿Por qué no podemos entrar? Le preguntar al hombre corpulento parado frente a nosotros. Vestir un traje oscuro y ser alto y fuerte. Bloqueaba la entrada al club nocturno Sara. Se podía escuchar la música de baile tras la puerta. Querer entrar. Okay, so now with the translation. ¿Por qué no podemos entrar? Why can't we go in? Le preguntar al hombre corpulento parado frente a nosotros. I asked the big man standing in front of us. Vestir un traje oscuro y ser alto y fuerte. He wore a dark suit and he was big and strong. Bloqueaba la entrada al club nocturno Sara. He was blocking the entrance of the Zara nightclub. Se podía escuchar la música de baile tras la puerta. You could hear the dance music behind the door. Querer entrar. We wanted to go inside. Okay, so a very quick summary again in English. Why can't we go inside? I asked the big man standing in front of us. He wore a dark suit and was tall and strong. He was blocking the entrance to the Zara nightclub. You could hear the dance music behind the door, through the door rather. We wanted to go inside. So please give me your answers, guys. Numbered 1 to 4, please. I want you to tell me, would you use the imperfect or the preterite in this case? Now, I'll give you a second to reply, and then I'll go through and see how we're doing. Okay, Kevin, good job. Just check your spelling, though. Your spelling of the last one is a bit dodgy. Okay, Annette, good job. But ask yourself, was he wearing the suit at one specific moment or for a longer period of time? Deb, good job. Emma, good job. Just check your spelling of the last one. Okay, so some of you guys might want to look at the conjugations a little bit later, but the good news is that you're choosing the verbs accurately. You're choosing the perfect or the imperfect, the preterite or the imperfect accurately, which is wonderful. Good job. All right, then let's have a look at this then. So, ¿por qué no podemos entrar? Le pregunté al hombre corpulento parado frente a nosotros. So, I asked the guy in front of us, why can't we go inside? Did I ask him in one specific moment or for a longer period of time? Obviously, I just asked him once, right? It was a simple action, so we use the preterite. Now, he wore a dark suit and was tall and strong. Now, did he wear a dark suit in that specific moment, or was it for a longer period of time? Do we want to give a sense of duration here or not? Well, obviously, we want to give a sense of duration. Okay? He was wearing a suit. So we said vestía un traje oscuro y Hopefully all of you guys should get this right, because you might spot this example from earlier on in the class, and I think we got 100% pass mark for this. Era alto y fuerte, because he was tall and strong for longer than that one specific moment, right? He was blocking the entrance to the Zara nightclub. You could hear dance music through the doors. And then this last one is a tricky one, because it could be both actually, but most of you guys have got this right here. Queríamos. That's the correct conjugation, by the way, guys. So we wanted to. Queríamos entrar. Now, because this is the most difficult one, and it could also be quisimos, if you wanted to give a different emphasis, tell me, why are we saying queríamos here? Why are we using the imperfect here for we wanted to go in? Tell me what you think. Again, I want you to think about the sense of duration or in the moment. Connie says at the moment. Yeah, but Connie, if it's at the moment, then shouldn't we say quisimos? Like, so Kim says, because they wanted it for a while. Exactly. Okay, great answer from Clarissa here. She says, I've lost Clarissa's answer here. Yeah, so Clarissa says, and this is the key point. So good job, Clarissa. The whole paragraph was about the group wanting to enter. Exactly. This whole story that we're telling here is about this group of friends who want to get into this nightclub. And obviously you picture the scene. They've gone there. They're standing at the door. They want to go inside, right? And it's about a frustrating situation. The guy's blocking the door. We want to go inside. And so even, let's just say it was just like 30 seconds they were there. It doesn't matter the duration. This was a question that came up earlier. It doesn't matter if it's 30 seconds or 30 days. The point is that as the speaker, we want to give the impression that there's a sense of duration here. Right? Is this starting to make sense now? Is this becoming clear? I was very encouraged from your answers here, guys. And I've tried to keep this so simple that even when you're speaking with, even when you're in the middle of a conversation, you know, where you've got to think quickly, the way that I've presented it here, you've only got one decision to make. You've got to think to yourself, right, is the thing that I'm talking about a specific moment in the past, or is there a sense of duration? And if you can make that quick decision, which I hope you agree is a quick decision you can make on the fly in a conversation, that is going to get you speaking correctly with accurate grammar in 80–90% of the time. All right? So I hope this class has been useful for you. I'm going to take questions in just a minute. I guess my main tip from this, now that we have talked about this key concept, is to go off and do lots of listening and reading and speaking in Spanish, and just try to notice when people are using these. Now, like through the lens of this concept that we've talked about today. Okay, so how did I do? You let me know. So our language point here was the preterite versus the imperfect. And my aim that I told you about at the beginning was you will learn to think about past tenses like a local. So you can speak more natural Spanish, sound less English, and feel more confident with your Spanish. Has the class been a success or not? Let me know. I'm laying myself out here to public opinion. If it wasn't useful, I'd also like to know, because that's very useful for me to know. Ted says, I'm trying to decide how to learn to do this on the fly. Well, Ted, it's just a question of doing it now. You know? So Oliver says he tried logging into the webinar on my phone. Tried logging in and it finally works. Oliver, I'm sorry about that. The software here does work on all systems, but this technology is not bulletproof, I'm afraid. But I will send you out a replay in case for the stuff that you've missed. Okay, so you will get that. So hopefully that is make up for the technical trouble. Chris says, awesome job, and I'm a teacher myself. Good one, pleased. So guys, I'm going to take questions in just a second. Much of what, in fact, the entire class that you've seen here is taken from a private Spanish community that I run called the Fluent Spanish Academy. I mentioned that just earlier on the beginning of the call. And if you enjoyed this class, you may like to know a little bit more about it. And I'd like to take a minute here just to tell you a bit about the Academy, so that if you would like more stuff like this, more classes like this on different grammar points and a whole host of other material, I'd like to just let you know about it. It'll take a few minutes, but up to you. Maybe you guys can let me know whether you'd like me to tell you about that, or else we could just go directly to Q&A if that's what you prefer. You let me know. Okay, Shell says yes, please. Okay, great. Well, I'll run through this quickly then, and then we'll go to questions at the end. So it's called the Fluent Spanish Academy, like I say, and it's a private community run by me for people stuck at an intermediate level of Spanish to help them break through and become fluent. So I'm going to tell you what's inside. I'm also going to give you some details of a very special package that we are offering right now, which is we don't usually do, but this is one of those moments that you're in the middle of that period right now. So it's good timing. So we have a lot of stuff like the class you saw today in the Academy. But the main concept of everything in the Academy is this. As an intermediate level learner, in order to reach fluency, you need to immerse yourself as much as possible in Spanish at the right level. Now here you can see 3 different bars: beginner, intermediate, advanced. The entire point of the Academy is that it is pitched right here in between the intermediate and the advanced level. Okay, so with the Academy, in a nutshell, what you're getting is a whole ecosystem of training that is specifically designed to raise you from the to bridge that gap between intermediate and advanced. Okay, so inside the Academy, you've got well, an awful lot of stuff. Here's the member dashboard that you can see here, where you've got all the different types of material that we have. I'll give you a quick overview of what these are. When you join the Academy, the first thing you get is a starter course, and the starter course is a complete training for intermediate level learners. And so what you learn in this course here is exactly why people run into trouble at the intermediate level. So I break down what's known as the intermediate plateau. I show you why you have these feelings of not making any progress, why your speaking seems to stall, why grammar doesn't get any better. And then I show you exactly what study techniques to implement to bridge that gap and get through the intermediate plateau. And then I link that back to all the materials we have in the Academy. So it sets out a very, very clear roadmap for what to do as someone stuck at the intermediate plateau. The first type of material we have in the Academy, training if you like, are these weekly classes. These are called Fluent Spanish classes. You get a new one of these classes every single week. So every week, new classes is released. And we have over a year's worth of weekly classes in there at the moment. And these classes are very special because what we do, myself and my colleague, Angela, who's a native Spanish speaker, we create dialogues based on daily situations. And so we take dialogues and conversations in Spanish that people at the intermediate level tend to struggle with. Things like, for example, reacting to information in real time, making arrangements, suggesting plans, things like that. We create these very realistic dialogues, and then we record ourselves speaking the dialogues, and then we break it down and we teach you all the words and phrases that we use in the dialogues. And you get lesson notes and grammar explanations and things like that. But the important thing is that this focuses on real Spanish that people actually use. And many people tell us that they listen to one of these weekly lessons and they go out onto the street in wherever they live, and they immediately hear people using the exact phrase or expression that they heard from the class, because it is that practical. So then you have the audio, you have all the lesson notes that come with that, and you get a new one of these classes every week. This is focused on helping you improve your spoken fluency. Next, we have the listening comprehension training. And recently we did a survey among all our members in the academy, and this came out top as the most popular thing that we most popular training that we have in the academy. And what this is a huge library of spontaneous conversations in Spanish between Angela and native Spanish speakers from around the Spanish-speaking world, from Spain to Mexico to Argentina to Colombia. And these are conversations on daily topics, which are broken down into accessible 5-minute conversations. And they are fully transcribed so that you have the audio and the complete transcripts, so that you can listen to these conversations and read along at the same time. The reason that this is so powerful is because as you listen, whenever you don't understand anything, you can immediately refer to the transcript and fill in all of the gaps in your comprehension. And we have dozens of this listening comprehension training. And what many people do when they join the academy is they simply immerse themselves in this training material and spend all their time listening. And very quickly, they find that they go from struggling to keep up in conversations to actually understanding and following along natural conversations very, very quickly. Because the trouble is, even if you live in a Spanish-speaking country, it's very difficult to get dedicated listening practice, especially when you're a part of the conversation. Okay, so this is the listening comprehension training. Like I said, dozens of these recorded conversations are spontaneous conversations between people, fully transcribed so that you can listen and read at the same time. Next, we have what's my personal favorite part of the academy, which we used to call Grammar Central. We don't call it that anymore. It is a huge collection of short stories in Spanish focused on specific grammar points. So this example that you can see here, this is a story called Líder, and it is written to focus on the subjunctive. What that means is, as you read through the story, you see a large number of examples of the subjunctive being used. So whereas, if you read a normal book, you might get 1 or 2 examples of the subjunctive per chapter. And also the book's really hard, so you kind of spending all of your time worrying about the vocabulary and understanding the words. But with these short stories, we keep the vocabulary simple, so the stories are fairly easy to understand, but we pack it full of the respective grammar point, so that as you read the story, you get very quickly used to when this grammar point is being used. And this helps you master all the different grammar points of Spanish in a very natural way. And we have short stories to cover the subjunctive, the past tenses, por and para, the conditional, ser and estar, all the typical problem parts. They also come with the audiobook for every single story. So again, you can read and listen. And then you can see on the right-hand side here, we have these incredible exercises to do after you read these stories, which is that we remove the verbs, and then you have to go back through and recreate the story using the grammar point that you've been studying, which actually helps you then produce the grammar point, which it hardwires it into your brain and prepares you for speaking using this grammar as well. So again, this is one of the most powerful parts of the academy, because it gives you all of this wonderful listening and reading material, again focused on this sweet spot between intermediate and advanced, so that you can always be learning at your level. Live training. Now, you had a taste of the live training today because we covered the past tenses. We have a huge back catalogue of live training where we cover all different things, like different grammar points. This one from a year or so ago was on memory, so I teach you tricks that I use to memorize new vocabulary. Every single live training is focused on a different area of learning Spanish. And so what these do is they help you actually become a better learner, a more efficient Spanish learner, which is really, when it comes down to it, is the most important thing, because then you don't need a teacher anymore. We also have lots of other additional resources like Spanish movies and TV series and things like that, but that's not really the main focus of this. We also have a fantastic Facebook community where we keep you engaged and encourage you to keep studying every day. Inside the Fluent Spanish Academy Facebook group, Angela comes in on a regular basis and teaches you idioms, because we all love idioms, like this one, buscarle tres pies al gato. And so what you'll get every week is idioms from Angela, where she'll come in and she'll give you this idiom and she'll ask you, what you think it means. And then she does a live video later during the week where she comes in and sort of teaches you what it means and gives you examples. So at the same time, as you're going and spending your normal time on Facebook, you can actually be learning these Spanish idioms at the same time and improving your colloquial Spanish. Okay, so this is all the material that you get inside the Academy, but really at the heart, what the Academy is this. It's tailor-made immersion materials for the intermediate level so that you learn fast and effectively. It's coaching and guidance from me personally, and it's a friendly, supportive community of learners. It's everything you need to become fluent in Spanish the fast way in one place. I am extremely proud of what we've created here, and many people who come and join us. Really, the reason they make so much progress is because there's no need to go off and to start to wonder anymore, what should I study now? Where can I find the material? Because it's all here for you. And if you identify with being at that intermediate plateau, then it is custom made for you. To give you an example, this is a comment from a Facebook group recently from Peter, who said, he's doing more listening now, but he says, I've completed 2 of your short stories from the Academy, and it's an incredible feeling when you start to read stories in another language. I started listening to the conversations 5 weeks ago, and my understanding and confidence has dramatically improved drastically. It's fantastic. I have to say, Olly, I feel like I've won the jackpot coming across I will teach you a language. So that's an example of the kind of transformation that people go through when they have access to the kind of material that allows you to study at your best. So if you identify with this, if you freeze up when you speak Spanish because you don't know how to reply, if you find that you can't understand natural Spanish spoken by real people or in groups because you don't practice listening in the right way, if you can't speak with accurate grammar because you haven't learned the natural way, or if you're frustrated by a lack of expression in Spanish because you're not learning the way people really speak, then the Academy is for you. Now, I'm sure you're wondering about the price. Obviously, this is a bit different from the usual model of hiring a teacher by the hour. If you're an independent learner, then in fact, the Academy is far more valuable than that, because obviously you have 24/7 access to the material and to the community and everything else that you get. You know, if you take private lessons in Spanish a couple of times a week, for example, that can easily add up to $300 or $400 a month, or $5,000 over the course of a year. It gets very expensive to do that. And often, you know, even if you are taking face-to-face lessons, your progress isn't really that impressive all the time, because what you have to do actually is spend time on your own with Spanish. But anyway, that's the reason that the Fluent Spanish Academy really is unbeatable value at the price that it is. We have 2 options for membership. Monthly membership in the Academy costs $35 a month. Or if you take an annual membership, you get 3 months free, and it ends up about $315 for the year. But there are also some very interesting bonuses that I'm going to tell you about in a second. It's also very transparent. Over here, we have no contracts. You can cancel at any time. The price itself will almost certainly go up in the future. It's been the same now for over 2 years. But if you join today, then the price you get today is guaranteed for as long as you stay a member. So to put this in perspective, if you take let's say you take the annual membership option for the Academy, it works out about 86 cents a day. Or if you're in the UK, it's about 60p a day. Now, I don't know how much you spend on your daily coffee. If you're in London like me, it's probably about 5 times that at least. But for 86 cents a day, hopefully you would agree that the Academy is worth a shot. One of the things that people say to me most often is, Olly, I've been tempted by the Academy for ages, but I've never taken the plunge. And here's the thing, with language learning, as I've discovered myself with my own learning, time is your friend. Okay, the worst thing you can do is just let time go by without studying. But on the other hand, if you just do a little bit every day and you keep it up and you keep focused on studying in the right way with the right material, time does so much of the work for you. And that's how I've been able to learn the 8 languages that I speak. It's just by doing something every day, focusing on the right material and not stopping. Okay, so that's why I've decided to create a little incentive for you, just to try and convince you that now is better than 6 months from now. Because if you join in 6 months, well, obviously that's great, but I guarantee you will regret not having joined 6 months earlier. So bonus number 1 that you're going to get, and this is only available for those of you on the class, is you're going to get a Master the Past Tense 30-day study pack. So what this is an entire story written in Spanish focusing on the past tense. I told you a little bit about these earlier. And what we've done is we've gone through and we've removed all of the verbs in the past tense from the story. So every day you have a very simple task. You simply open up the pack, you look for the passage from the story for the day, you read it, which is great practice in itself, and you decide, okay, the verb, is this going to be in the imperfect or the preterite? And you practice that every day for 30 days, and I guarantee you by the end of the month, this past tense question will be second nature to you. That's bonus number 1. Bonus number 2 is only available for annual members. I also have to restrict this to the first 10 people, I'm afraid, because otherwise I simply don't have time to honor it, which you'll understand why in a second. So if you do take the annual membership today, you're also going to get a free consultation call with me, which I very rarely do, but I'd like to make that available to you. So what we'll do is we'll get on a call on Skype or over the phone, whatever's best for you, and we will chat about your Spanish, talk about your progress, what you've been doing, and try to figure out, well, I will give you my own personal guidance for what you need to do to take your Spanish up to the next level. And that is free for you. You can use it anytime within the next 12 months. So you get those 2 bonuses, again, if you join today. So a quick reminder of what you get. If you join the Academy, you get the live training with me every month. You get the community forums. You get the weekly fluent Spanish classes. You get the listening comprehension training, the short stories. Like I said before, an entire ecosystem for making that step from intermediate up to advanced in Spanish. This is also for you, whatever variety of Spanish you're learning. This is a common misconception. People think, well, I'm learning Mexican Spanish, so this isn't for me, or I'm learning Spanish from Spain, so this isn't for me. Look, 99% of Spanish is the same. And the variations that there are in different countries, it comes down to vocabulary and phrases for the most part. And the best way to train yourself to learn the local dialects of wherever it is that you're interested in? Well, the best way is to become literate and confident in standard Spanish. Because once you can do that, then you can go and you understand everything, and you can go and pick up any different dialect you want. So in the Academy, what we do is we focus on making you a literate, competent speaker of Spanish so that you can decide whatever direction you want to go in. All right, so this is what you get today. You can join monthly for $35 and you get the past tense study pack bonus. You can also take the annual bonus and then the annual option, and you'll get the past tense study pack and a free call with me, which is a total value of $697. But you are in luck today because, as I said before, we're in the middle of a trial promotion, and I don't know how long this will last for, but for the moment this is what we're offering. Rather than an annual membership, we're actually making it a lifetime membership. And rather than $315 for the year, it is $297 for a one-time payment. So again, like I said, this is a trial, and it's available right now, but I can't guarantee how much longer. So what this means is you have 2 options today. Firstly, you can join monthly, but if you'd like to take this lifetime membership option that we have available right now, then for one payment of $297, you get access to the Academy for life, including all of the updates that we may come out with in the future. Okay, and so if you'd like to join, There's a button on your screen here that says Vamos, and you can click that, and that will take you through to the page where you can enroll. Alternatively, the other way through that is to open up a new browser window and to go to the URL you can see on down here on your screen, iwillteachyoualanguage.com, which is my website, /class offer. Make sure you do that in a new browser window, otherwise you will lose me here and you'll miss the Q&A. So again, if you'd like to join, you can click the button on the screen, or you can open up a new browser window and go to iwillteachyoualanguage.com /class offer. If you'd like to go for the lifetime membership option, please remember that the free consultation call is only limited to the first 10 people. So again, if that's something that you would like to avail yourself of, please just bear that in mind, because they don't last all that long. And there we go. So we're going to move on to Q&A in just a second. So if you have any questions about what we've talked about today or about the Academy, please go ahead and type it in and I'll get through to those. Courtney is one of our most successful Fluent Spanish Academy members. She's now a proud fluent Spanish speaker. She says about the Academy, I learned more in 9 months than in 6 years at school. But it's really no surprise, because the school system does not do a great job of teaching languages. Again, that's what we give you here at the Academy. It's the experience of having been through this learning process many times and this complete set of materials that are designed to help you do just that. Robert said, 16 months ago, I could only speak with somebody for 30 seconds in Spanish. But thanks to Olly, I can now have a conversation for an hour plus in Spanish. Robert's another great success story. So again, if you are feeling that your vocabulary is okay, but you lack precision and you overuse the same words because you can never study enough from textbooks, if you struggle to understand when you're reading because you can't find material that's suitable, if you're losing your motivation because you're trying to do it all by yourself, if you can't find material that's just right for you, because let's be honest, it's not out there. And if you've even begun to doubt whether you're capable of speaking Spanish fluently, which is the most tragic of all, because you don't have someone to show you what to do, then the Academy is for you. So once again, you can join monthly for $35 a month, or take this very special lifetime membership, which is we're currently testing out for one payment of 297. That were in euros, that works out about 250 euros. If you're in the UK, it's about 220 pounds or so. And again, the monthly option is about 25 pounds a month. So, you know, it's the price of one lesson with a teacher a month, basically. And in euros, that works out about 30 euros a month or so. So you can click the button on the screen, or you can open up a new window and go to iwillteachyoualanguage.com /class offer. So there we are. I will go and have a quick sip of water because I'm a bit parched after an hour and a quarter speaking. And then I'll go through and we'll start taking all of your questions. Okay. So Rose says, I am a life member. Can I have the past tense study pack? Yes, you can, Rose. It should be already in your membership. If you go to the member area and you scroll down to the bonuses section, then you should have it there for you. So Penelope says, sounds fantastic, Olly. I'm doing Duolingo at the moment and I need to move on, but I can't do this so fast. Duolingo, yeah, it is. It's kind of taken over the world, Duolingo. I have to say I'm not a fan. And the reason is that it doesn't give you the most important thing, which is exposure to real Spanish. You know, most apps out there, they simply they give you things that works well in an app and it's kind of fun, but what actually helps to teach you Spanish is a very different question, and you need to be immersing yourself in reading and listening in Spanish at your level. That is how you will progress to the higher levels. And that's why I created the Academy, because it's simply not out there in one place. So Nadra says, are you sending the slides to all who did the webinar? I think actually, Nadra, you know what? Maybe I will. I haven't done this in the past, but many of you guys have asked for it, so maybe I'll do that. So Destiny says, yeah, I'm using Duolingo and Memrise, but it's not helping when it comes to learning conversational Spanish and understanding when natives talk at their normal pace. Well, exactly. I'm going to broadcast this comment here, Destiny, because what Destiny has said here is a very, very good summary of exactly why these apps don't work. They're fun, gives you the impression of quick results, but like she says, it doesn't help when it comes to learning conversational Spanish and understanding when natives talk at their normal pace. These apps, they're good to get started and have some fun, but very quickly you need to move on to using holistic material, which is where you get everything together. You're reading stories, you're listening to authentic conversations, you're listening to dialogues that contain natural language. It's extremely important, this. And again, this is why the Academy exists. It's because it gives you all of this in one place. Wes says, nice one, Ollie, but not for me. Wes, that's totally fine. I hope you enjoyed the class and best of luck. Kim says, Duolingo had me say, soy un pingüino. When would you use that? Kim, are you trying to tell me that you don't have to say I'm a penguin on a daily basis? What are you talking about? What kind of conversations are you having? So, all right then. Ted says, thanks, Ollie. The webinar was great. I'll be purchasing the Academy membership soon. Fantastic, Ted. I look forward to welcoming you aboard. Vanessa says, I'm excited. I've been bumbling alone, living in Central America for the last 3 years. I can speak, but my grammar is terrible. Really looking forward to getting past the intermediate plateau. Great. Well, I'm excited for you as well, Vanessa, and I look forward to helping you doing just that. Stephanie says, it says deal of the day. So is this just for today? Actually, that's a good point. Stephanie, I just put that in because it was the only graphic I could find, actually. So yeah, actually, I might need to change that. So yeah, disregard that. I just meant to say it's a kind of special deal, which it is, because the lifetime membership, we've never done this before. It's something that we started a few weeks ago, and we're just kind of seeing whether people appreciate it or not. So I don't think we'll keep it up for very long, but that's currently what we have. Okay. Kirsty says, thanks for the lesson, Ollie. I wish there were more things like this when I was studying languages at uni. Well, exactly, Kirsty. You and me both. Again, the school system is designed for teaching large groups of students in the most efficient way possible. But as soon as you leave the classroom environment, you can do things much better. And that's what I try to teach here. Usually says, do you give French lessons too? Yeah, usually if you want to drop me an email, I can tell you what we've got. Stephanie says, I would really like to receive the slides. Stephanie, yeah, I mean, lots of people have been asking for this, so I think I'll do that. Tanya says, do you have any programs offered for someone stuck between the beginner and intermediate level? Yes, I do. Tanya, I'll send you a link just here. If any of you guys identify more as a beginner, then feel free just to drop me an email and I will I'll send you all the information. So Cheryl says Castilian or Latin American Spanish. So the material, so we try to cover all the bases. So for example, in our listening comprehension training, which I told you about before, Cheryl, the conversations that we record and transcribe are from across the Spanish-speaking world. And the main reason is, obviously it's partly to have something for everybody, but also so that you can become a confident, versatile speaker of Spanish. Because don't forget, if you live in Spain, for example, you don't just meet people from Spain, you meet people from Cuba, from Colombia, from Mexico. So it's very important that you become used to speaking with people from other backgrounds as well. Because apart from anything, when you do get used to speaking with people from other dialects, your listening skills just go through the roof in general. So it makes you much more confident. Emma says, Olly, I'm still a beginner halfway through El Hombre del Sombrero. Would Academy be too advanced? Well, Emma, I would certainly advise that you finish Spanish Uncovered first. Because I'm a big believer in starting what you finish, especially if it's one of my courses, because that's what they're designed for. So yeah, I would finish that first. As far as the Academy goes, I mean, as I've been saying, when we are offering the lifetime membership right now, so you could, if you wanted to, take advantage of the lifetime offer and start later whenever you want. But I would want you to finish Spanish Uncovered first, for example, for sure. Pat says, great class, Olly. When's the next one? I'm not sure right now, Pat, but inside the Academy, we have an entire library, if that's help. Destiny says, do you have a free version of your program? No, we don't, I'm afraid. Simply because, I mean, well, we have many people that work on the Academy, and obviously that costs a fair amount of money, so we do need to charge. But we try to make it as reasonable as we can. Okay. Natasha says, will you offer again one day the free lesson about the subjunctive? Yeah, probably. Don't have any plans right now. Sally says, how do you know if you are more of an advanced beginner or intermediate? Yeah, that's a good question, Sally. How long have you been learning for? Go ahead and let me know. What I would say, Sally, is if you followed today's class and you found that it was around the right level for you, then you're certainly ready for the Academy. If you really, like today, for example, if you struggle to keep up with if you're getting confused with the different verb forms and stuff, then you might be more of an advanced beginner. So then the question is, what's your preference? Do you like to go back to do you like to push yourself? In which case the Academy might be suitable, or do you prefer to kind of go back to basics and get a thorough grounding in the basics? And if that's you, then in that case, my Spanish Uncovered course will probably be more suitable. What else have we got here? Okay. Alison says, does your method cater for older brains? I've been struggling with the past tense for many months. Alison, I teach another class, actually, where I give an example of a friend of mine, Steve, who is 72 and has learned 16 languages. And I asked him how he learns languages, and he said, I simply take simple stories in the language I'm learning, and I listen and read to them over and over again. It's exactly the same method that we teach here. Whether you are 70 or 17, if you use methods that don't give you what you need, you're going to struggle. The key is to learn in the right way. So I think all I'd say to you is, don't let age be a concern, because put it this way: if let's say age was a factor, then what do you do then, and where does that leave you? There are plenty of examples of people. I have many students in their 60s and 70s who go through something of a renaissance with their learning, because they realize, for the last 50, 60 years, I've been trying to learn languages like I did at school, and I haven't got anywhere. And they kind of conflate the two. They think, well, it's because I'm old, it doesn't work. But actually, they've been using the same old methods for 50 years. I think, really, if you have time in the day to devote to immersing yourself in the kind of content that I've been talking about here, then you can only improve. So I would really strongly encourage you not to worry about the age question, because again, speaking from the position of someone who, I mean, I spend all my time working online, meeting language learners from around the world, and I see time and time again that people of all ages have success. And I would say that, Alison, if you identify as having an older brain, you have one very special advantage, which is you've probably got concentration and dedication, which someone who's 17 doesn't have. I struggled with this when I was younger, a short attention span, jumping from one thing to the next. I've been finding as I get older, I can focus and concentrate better. That is gold for language learning. So yeah. Russ says, is this something you may try to roll out for other languages too? I mean, Russ, I think it is. But it takes time, and it's a capacity issue for me, really. Like if I do this with I'd like to do this with German. That might be coming next, but again, I can't do this all by myself, so I have to find people who can help me. Huge comment from Nadra. I'm not sure what that is. Bill says, I'm 73 and my biggest challenge is poor memory. It just takes more time. Again, I mean, Bill, my reaction to that is, well, it depends on the methods that you're using. And this is a conversation for another day, maybe. But, for example, inside the Academy, one of the live trainings we have is called Memory Hacks. And it's when I go through the methods that I use for learning vocabulary. And it's not the kind of stuff you learn at school. Put it that way. What generally happens is that the key to a better memory for language is to stop learning individual words. And this is the problem with apps like Duolingo. They give you single words and silly sentences, and they ask you to memorize them. But it gets much easier to remember vocabulary when, for example, you're reading an interesting and engaging story, and you see new vocabulary in the context of a story, or in the context of one of our listening comprehension trainings, for example. When you see vocabulary in context and you spend all of your time listening and reading, things become more memorable right away. The problem is that as a study approach, it's not particularly well known. The single biggest tip I would give to people who want to improve their memory is to start to listen and read at the same time to interesting material at their level. If you do that, I guarantee your memory will it will be like you've had a brain transplant. Because it's just a different way of approaching things, using more of your faculties. And this is what we encourage you to do in the Academy. It is to spend time listening and reading to interesting, useful content at your level. And that's what gets people the results. Natasha says, if you need a German teacher, I'm here. Oh, wonderful. Drop me an email, Natasha. Maybe we can talk over email. And yeah, well, this is a great point from Wes as well. Wes says, learning a language improves brain function. Indeed. In fact, there are studies that show that learning a foreign language reduces the onset of dementia by 5 years. And that is, this comes back to the point of when people say, well, I think I'm too old to learn a language. Well, irrespective of how fluent you end up becoming in a language, the act of learning a language every day has such great mental health benefits that it's really, something to consider on that basis alone. Stephanie says, how often is content updated on the Academy site? Can you get locked out if you don't use it regularly? Stephanie, no, you will never be locked out. I can guarantee you that. We update new content all the time. And just this week, for example, we're just about to release, I think, a new 3-part listening comprehension training with a conversation between a speaker from Spain and Argentina, which is fantastic. We've just updated all of our materials to include which look at the common phrases that we teach, these spoken Spanish phrases, and we update them to give like Mexican Spanish and Spanish equivalents. We were always working on updating new content. And of course, we have all the live content every week where we teach you new idioms. Russ says, Claire says, oh no, I forgot about today. Can I watch it again afterwards? Yes, Claire, don't worry. I'll be sending you a replay of the whole class. Russ says, Olly, do you have any useful articles on your website for learning 2 languages at the same time? Yes, I do, Russ. I will send a link in just a second. I wrote a big article about this. It's also on my podcast. It's just a topic that comes up all the time. Too often for my for my liking, actually, but yeah. Here you go, Russ. I've just sent you a link to that. Gustav says, can we download the materials once we become a member of the Academy? Yes, everything's fully downloadable. So if you don't have good internet, you can download it to your device and you can keep it with you wherever you are. Okay, guys, I think looks like we're coming to the end of the questions. If you have any more questions, now's the time to let me know. Thank you so much for being such enthusiastic students in the class. It's been really great to see you all here virtually. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you now have something to guide you when you are using the past tenses. It really is a fantastic feeling when you start to dominate this and get it right. And so I wish you the best of luck. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Bill. Bill, welcome aboard. Look forward to seeing you inside our community. And bueno, muchas gracias, chicos. Nos vemos en la próxima clase dentro de la academia. Cuando sea, buena suerte con todo, con los tiempos pasados. Y bueno, sobre todo, les deseo un buenísimo día, una buena noche y suerte con su español. Venga. Bueno, adiós.